Bonjour tout le monde. Anna et moi sommes très heureux d'être ici aux États-Unis pour une tournée afin de promouvoir nos travailleurs et nos intérêts. Le but, c'est d'utiliser le grand levier de bonne volonté qu'on partage avec le peuple américain pour éliminer les tarifs et rétablir le libre-échange entre nos deux pays. Le but, c'est de promouvoir des chèques de paix de Canada. On veut que le Canada soit abordable chez nous, sécuritaire chez nous, maître chez nous. Mon tournée a commencé à Détroit, où j'ai proposé l'idée de libre-échange d'un pacte d'automobiles pour permettre le libre-échange de nos autos à travers nos frontières. Après ça, je suis allé à Houston afin de parler de l'énergie canadienne. Le Texas est l'un des marchés les plus grands pour l'énergie canadienne. J'ai proposé l'augmentation de 2 millions de barils par jour de pétrole afin d'augmenter notre dollar canadien, notre PIB, les revenus pour la santé et l'éducation. Et les gens de Texas étaient très, très heureux d'entendre ce plan. Après ça, je suis allé à Austin, au capital, pour rencontrer le gouverneur Abbott. M. Abbott est un grand supporter de Canada. Il veut en faire davantage de commerce avec notre pays. Le Texas est l'un des plus grands marchés d'exportation au monde pour le Canada. Et il veut un plus grand partenariat avec nous sur l'énergie, la technologie et d'autres industries canadiennes et américaines. Après quoi, j'ai eu l'occasion d'aller aux grandes émissions de Joe Rogan, la plus grande émission de podcast au monde, pour faire les arguments en faveur de l'élimination des tarifs, de libre-échange entre nos deux pays et de rebâtir l'amitié. C'était une occasion exceptionnelle de parler au plus grand nombre d'Américains possible pour contrer les tarifs sur l'aluminium, le bois d'œuvre, l'acier, les automobiles, pour défendre les travailleurs au Canada. Et j'espère que ça va créer plus de leviers avec l'administration pour les négociations qui s'en viennent sur l'échange commercial entre nos deux pays qui vont être tenus pendant l'été. Finalement, je suis à New York avant de rencontrer le secteur financier qui touche tous les autres secteurs. C'est la bourse en arrière moi. Donc, on va parler de notre économie, la capacité de Canada de rendre les États-Unis plus abordables et plus sécuritaires, avec une relation plus intégrale, tout en protégeant notre souveraineté. Ça va être dans un grand discours ce soir. Alors, c'est un grand progrès. Encore, le but ici aux États-Unis, c'est de rendre le Canada plus abordable chez nous, plus sécuritaire chez nous et en fait, maître chez nous. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here now in English. It's great to be in the United States of America. I have been really enjoying the goodwill of Americans. Americans love Canada. That's the great news that I take away from this trip. Incredible goodwill on the south side of the border. They want trade with Canada. They want partnership with Canada. They want friendship with Canada, as we've done for well over 200 years now. And we started in Detroit, where I fought for our auto sector, pushing an auto pact that would allow free trade across our border and will not only protect the jobs that are at risk today, but double our production back to where it was back in 2015. And the auto sector on the American side of the border was very happy because the plan that I put forward actually increases auto production for both Canada and the U.S. Then it was off to Houston, which is one of the great energy capitals of the world. Houston buys literally hundreds of millions of barrels of Canadian oil every single year. They don't just buy it, they transport it. Canadian oil goes by pipeline day after day, and I went to some of the terminals where our oil is received, processed, and shipped off to the world. The energy companies there were thrilled to hear my plan to boost production by a couple million barrels to make our country stronger, make our people better off, and make our dollar more powerful. so with life's affordable. I then went on to Austin, where I met with the governor of Texas, Governor Abbott. He wants to build even better trade relationships. Texas is one of the biggest export destinations for Canadian goods, and the Texas governor welcomed the idea of buying even more from Canada to support our economy. Then I was on to the Joe Rogan podcast, which is the biggest podcast in the world and the best place to sell Americans on the idea of tariff-free trade, to fight for our auto workers, our lumber workers, our steel and aluminum workers, and to fight for Canadian interests. We need to harness the goodwill of the American people, and what better place to do it than on the biggest podcast in the world, fighting for Canadian workers. Now on to New York, where I'll be speaking to the financial sector, and at the Foreign Policy Institute, I'll be making the case that Canada has leverage. We have strategic minerals, we have energy, we are the second biggest customer to the United States. It's in America's interest to have a strong tariff-free friendship with Canada, and so my mission here, of course, is to make Canada stronger at home, safer at home, more affordable at home, so that we can be unbreakable abroad. And I welcome your questions.
Mr. Poilievre, the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yes.
Why go on now and not during the campaign?
Well, the negotiations are coming up for the USMCA, or the CUSMA as we call it in Canada. I wanted to maximize Canadian leverage going in, and one of the biggest leverage points we have to fight for tariff-free trade, fight for our auto, steel, aluminum, and lumber workers is the goodwill of the American people. So I use the podcast to argue in favor of removing those tariffs, not just because it's great for Canadian workers, but also because it'll make life more affordable for American consumers.
How do you think you did on the podcast?
I think we had a great conversation. Joe's a great guy, and my mission was very simple: fight for Canada. I presented him with a big maple leaf on his kettlebell, which you'll see every time he works out. He'll think of Canadian workers who did the artisanal craftsmanship on that beautiful piece of equipment, and it was a great chance to fight for removing tariffs, so that our people can have jobs and we can launch our economy from currently being the weakest in the G7 to being the strongest.
So the platform is of current interest to you because of tariffs, but in the past you've called the Joe Rogan podcast problematic. So
no,
why would you do it?
I haven't done that.
Would you do it again?
I don't see why not.
You enjoyed his company?
So,
you enjoyed his company?
I thought we had a great conversation about how the United States would be best served by eliminating all the tariffs, so that we can make life safer and more affordable for Americans, and make paychecks bigger and our economy stronger for Canadians. So that's my message. I'm here to fight for Canada, to fight for our workers, our jobs, our steel, our aluminum, our lumber, our autos, and what better place to do it than on the biggest podcast in the world.
So what do you have planned for the rest of your time in New York?
We're giving a speech to I'm giving a speech to the Foreign Policy Institute. Then I'm meeting with some major investors who some of them have already pre-existing links to Canada, and I'll be making the argument to them they should be investing in Canada. Plow your capital back into our country so that we can build things on the north side of the border and profit both Americans and Canadians as friends.
So do you feel you have some repair work to do with the relationship between the two nations?
Unfortunately so. I mean, we've got these very unfortunate tariffs in place, but we got to focus on what we can control, right? We can't control what the president says or does, but we can control how we react. And so my mission has been to make Canada stronger at home by unblocking our resources, unleashing our economy, building up our reserves of energy and minerals, and then using all that leverage to get tariff-free access to the American market. Thank you, sir. Great to be with you.